Welcome back to Animal Crossing New Horizons. I'm dear darling. Actually, we see what's going on our lovely island of Fawnhollow today, where, well, once again, this seems to be the week about talking about media that I've consumed. I've got another planned conversation topic about later Alligator today because I have finished recording all the episodes. The last one will be up in January 10th, so, you know, quite a while away, about a month or so. It's a short game, but it's a lovely game, man. Incredibly charming, and if you haven't already seen, like, I suppose, some of the replies to the comments on the first two episodes, and the art time-lapse, it's a lovely, charming game, and it stays charming throughout. I'll warn you before I go into any spoilers, if that's what you're worried about. There's not really much to spoil, I'll be honest, so, but if you are worried about that, I will warn you before any sort of potential spoilers come up in the first place. So, hello there everyone. Right now in Fawnhollow, it's 3:22 PM on Thursday, December 16, 2021. I don't have any big news to share with you today, but I would like to touch on one seasonal topic. Snowy days like this always put a chill in my bones that I just can't shake. Luckily, nothing warms my heart more than the sight of a perfect little snowflakes dancing through the air. Sometimes I'll gently scoop them up with a net to look at their beautiful intricacies way up close. I wholeheartedly recommend that everyone get out there and try it yourself. Then you can use the snowflakes to grab something truly wintry. And with that, I'll get back to work supporting you and your enjoyment of our island. Aww. Yeah, so Later Alligator, if you haven't checked it out, I've got a series of it right now, ongoing up to, I don't know what episode it's on, either episode 2, maybe it's at 3, I can't remember. It's a charming little game. Following the story about Pat, the alligator, who lives in Alligator, New York City, and who is convinced he is about to be killed, I suppose, by his family. For some reason, he's a little bit of a paranoid alligator, you might say. But yes, he's very scared of that fact, and it's all up to you, I suppose, to sort of look around and talk to all the family members to really get to the bottom of a case. And in short, it's an incredibly charming game where honestly, it's basically, story-wise, it's not like that intricate or complicated, I'll be honest. And to be honest, I think it does it favours. I don't think it needs to have a complicated story or anything with huge nuances, anything like that. It's just a nice, fun time because the most of our focus is on the characters. Especially because it's animated by Small Boo, who apparently we've done like a lot of other animation stuff. I was looking at their Wikipedia article. They've done like animations and like some TV shows and other things, but this seems to be their first video game. I might have skipped over if they've done other video game work. A reindeer sweater, adorable. You know what? Go ahead, Phoebe. Try it on for size. See how it works for you. A bit of a colour clash, but you know, sure, why not? Wear it. It is the season after all. What was I going to say? I forgot. Yeah, the focus is essentially on the characters because every single character is incredibly charming. But it's a very well written game, to be honest. It's got very obviously casual, relaxed tone. Everyone's very chatty with you. Everyone's got their distinct personality, which you basically like. You understand their personality within seconds of talking to them, which is honestly good. It allows for a lot of I'm not sure necessarily readability is the word I want, but it allows for a lot of simplicity, I suppose, in the game. You don't have to get bogged down in the details. There's no sort of like thinking, like overly thinking about like ulterior motives or etc. like that. You take the characters at not quite face value, I suppose, but like as you see them. And they're very open to you, I suppose, about who they are and that sort of thing. And every character is quite well contained, I suppose, in their own sort of niche. There's not really much overlap that I can really think of between the characters, which is nice because it allows for you to meet a whole medley of different alligators all throughout Alligator, New York City, each with their own personalities. But yeah, when you do, you talk to each alligator, they introduce themselves somewhat, they talk to you about their relationship with Pat, whether it be like through sibling, friends, etc, etc. Anything like that. There's not really any spoilers I can think of in that sort of vicinity. Let's not sell the calm painting because that's actually one of them we don't have. And this stuff, yeah, okay. So the rest of this stuff. And then you talk and ask him about a big event which is happening this evening or whatever. And then, I suppose, mild spoilers, but you'll probably have figured it out if you've watched the first 2 episodes. It's Pat's birthday today, and you kind of catch on very quickly. It's probably just his birthday party that he's paranoid, that he's scared about, that he's going to be killed in. And you're just like, oh, you know, Pat, he's just a very paranoid and cute cinnamon roll character who's very scared of his own sort of safety all the time, I suppose. And it's adorable, I suppose. Talking to all their family members and seeing like what they've got planned for the party, etc, etc, and finding out about their personalities. And then but to find out about any information about the event, what you had to do is you had to play a minigame with every character. And they're I can't remember how many characters there are in total or how many minigames. It's about 30-esque minigames, I think. Each one being reasonably different. Now, they're all very simple minigames. Like, the first one you play is just a simple 3-card Monty. And there's other things like spot the difference, there's jigsaw, puzzle pieces. None of them are particularly intensive, they're very simple. And that's kind of a point. The game is rather simple in its essence. And because the focus of the game is not on the mechanics of the minigames. It's not like you play the minigames and you're like, whoa, this is mind-blowing. This is like, wow, revolutionary. You're like, no, this is very simple. And it's, it just is what it is, to be honest. But the focus on the characters and the charm and how much it oozes out of them as you play for it. This we're going to get into medium spoilers territory, I suppose, which is going to go into I'm going to start delving into things which have not yet been revealed in the parts of my Let's Play. So if you're following on my Let's Play, at the time this has been uploaded, I would stop watching now if you don't want to be spoiled. But if you're okay with spoilers, or if you're not watching the Let's Play, then continue on watching, I suppose, in this Animal Crossing video. So there's your spoiler warning. Anything I say from now on could be spoilers for the game. Okay, so a lot of the games have a lot of charm. Like, you start off with a very basic, like, 3-card Monty. You play like a pinball, which by the way is really difficult, and you play some other random like crane game things, and you really see their personality. Like, I think one of the earliest examples, perhaps, of the personality you can really see is through what's her name, Sweet Geraldine. I think this minigame might have been uploaded, but I can't recall. You play like this crane game, and she's sort of like, she seems like this very sweet, like 8-year-old, 10-year-old girl or whatever, and she like wouldn't harm a fly or anything. You know, she seems like a very sweet, innocent child. But then you sort of like, as you talk to her, you get like, she seems to be like a bit of a con artist or whatever. She seems to like be a lot smarter than she lets on. And I suppose nothing exemplifies that more than she goes like, I can't remember exactly the conversation she has, but she goes like, oh, I'm like 8 or 10 or something, like, who knows? which makes me kind of think, are you a spy? But anyway, you play the crane game with her, and it just oozes personality. The crane game itself is actually kind of annoying, if anything, mechanically, because you don't really have much control, which I suppose kind of mirrors the fact that there are the crane games are kind of like that in the first place, although I suppose this crane game is a bit different because you actually win a prize every time. I'm not sure if you can actually not win a prize, to be honest. But between all the battle dialogue, you have Sweet Geraldine on the side cheering you on, and she has commentary on, I suppose, on every single one of her prizes, it seems, comes out, and then you have like actual stories, and then you complete a game, and then you just get even more of her personality at the end, where you ask her about the event, and where she double crosses you, and she doesn't tell you any more about the event, and you're like, oh, okay, I suppose that's your first sort of array. Now, not every single character in the game you can talk to and has much of a minigame going on, and it's only the people who are related to Pat's family, or like tangentially related to Pat's family, I suppose, in some form or another, you can actually talk to. But they're all fantastic characters, and there's a reasonable amount of areas to explore. It's sort of like an adventure game, I suppose, later Alligator, where it's a point-and-click adventure game, which it's like, okay, like the point-and-click part. They have you hunting for puzzle pieces by clicking around the place, which is just sort of like an extra content. You only need about 2/3 of them to actually get to meet all the family members. And get their family member badge, which is needed for completion, I suppose. But I got around and got all of them anyway. I didn't hunt them all out. I had to find the last 10 or so using a guide. Oh, maybe not last 10, maybe the last like 8 or so using a guide. 6 to 8, it doesn't really matter, who cares at this point. Adventure games, point-and-click adventure games, not super fond of mechanically, because I find them kind of annoying going pixel hunting. And especially playing them, a lot of them are from a lot of previous days where game design and game anticipation philosophies were quite different. Oh, Lily, you're ill, let's go get you some medicine. So things are quite difficult, I suppose, in that aspect. Like things that a lot of adventure games are subject to bouts of moon logic, or like nonsensical sort of like solutions. Later Alligator doesn't really have that, because there's not really much in the way of problem solving or puzzle solving on first base. As I say, it's wholly and fully a character-focused game, an ensemble cast character-focused game, where really, if you don't like characters, if you don't like meeting new characters, and you don't like adorable animations, it might not be really the game for you. But it's so cute and wholesome in the first place that really, I can't help but recommend it to even. Oh, honestly, but is that a gyroid on the beach? What the heck? Did I put this here? Weird. Okay, maybe you can find gyroids on the beach now, which is a little bit excessive, seeing as we got all the gyroids, well, apart from Brewster's one, of course, in the first place. So we don't really need it, but I'll take it, I guess, and it'll just sort of forever remain buried as I never dig them up. But yeah, yeah, adventure games don't have the best sort of reputation, but this one, like, it doesn't really tap that much into the adventure game aspect. It's basically sort of more. I put it on the category of a visual novel, if anything. That's what essentially a visual novel with slight mini games, I suppose, to sort of tide you over. Yeah, I think it executes on those mini games fine. Like, a lot of its charm comes through its animation. Mechanically, nothing really sticks out to me as being a problem, but nothing really jumps out at me as being something I'm like, oh, you know, that was a fantastic game-wise decision or anything like that. It just sort of like was cool. It was nice to see. And I suppose the best part was the fact that I actually managed to do a different mini game with every single character, and a lot of them fit quite well. Is probably perhaps how I'd say. Oh, we don't need to water these. I forget it's snowing, so they're going to be watered automatically. Each of our... Is that Flick? It is Flick. Okay, so you are a visitor for today. Each of the characters has a minigame tailored specifically towards them, and they're quite fun. It's just fun meeting the whole cast of ensemble characters. I'm trying to think of notable characters in the beginning. Like, of course, let me think. At the beginning, there's not really many notable ones. Like, there's Slick Mickey, who's pretty funny. And honestly, I suppose is a very good introduction to, I suppose, the sort of style of characters everyone is. Everyone is very sort of larger than life. Everyone's very sort of amusing and entertaining in their own way. And Slick Mickey, I suppose, epitomizes all of that with his very over-the-top personality. And then, I suppose he's a very good introduction character because he very much sets the tone of the game, being like, you know, because I went in blind. I knew literally nothing about this game. The only bits I like, because I actually knew literally nothing, because now I think about it, I did a thumbnail art and I did the descriptions and all the stuff of the game after I recorded the first 2 episodes. So I came in, and the only part I read was Steam descriptions to try and come up with like a tagline, I suppose, of the intro, and that's why you meet the biggest, scariest family in Alligator, New York City. So I came in thinking, okay, I think this is like a Mafia-esque, maybe it's the detective game. And you go in and you talk to Pat, and he's like very paranoid about the entire situation. He sort of sets the scene, and I'm just like, okay, you know, we're like a detective trying to figure out what's going on. And then you talk to Slick Mickey, and he just sort of like throws everything out the window, where it's just like completely like I don't really know how to put it, but not like his dumbness, but like his very jovial and silly personality, I suppose. And it's not going to like it threw me off guard necessarily, but I just went, oh, I didn't quite expect that. I thought, you know, I clearly built up a different picture of this game in my mind than it actually is. It turns out it's a lot less serious than I thought it was. And then you play his 3-card Monty, and then, you know, he doesn't actually move the cards you're hunting for, so, you know, it's blindingly easy to beat him. I suppose, at his own game. And it's good. It sets the tone of a game where you're just like, oh, I well, maybe you didn't severely misjudge this game, but I severely misjudged this game. Where I thought it was going to be a whole different sort of thing. Okay, we have to get rid of those flowers a different time because we have run out of inventory space. And it's a really good introduction. You do that, and you're like, oh, lovely. Oh yeah, the only criticism I have with the minigame is the pinball minigame is really hard. It's like impossibly hard. Like, I had to play, like, every other minigame I think I completed first try, with the exception of the dating sim by the knife, with a knife, which, by the way, is one of the most hilarious minigames. Completely just caught me off guard. I don't know if we've got holiday candles, so let's perhaps hold on to that, because I don't know if we need to sell that recipe necessarily. If not, perhaps it's something I end up giving to Rach, because they might need it, I don't know. But yeah, what was I going to say with this? I forgot. I'm sure it wasn't very interesting. Let's buy me some medicine, actually, while we're here. Yeah, but the pinball machine with Joni. Joni, probably one of my favourite characters. I'm not actually sure if she is my favourite, but she's certainly one of them. She's so cool. Is essentially all I can say about that. The pinball minigame is really hard, and it's really hard to control anything, which I suppose is kind of in spirit of pinball, but it feels a bit weird compared to the rest of them, because it's like, I want to sort of like complete this game. And most of the games are either incredibly easy or you can get done quite well through skill. But pinball kind of felt quite random at times. Like, I felt like I didn't really have much control, which, you know, as far as in keeping with pinball, but, you know, I suppose as a completionist who wants to see the dialogue options, I wish it was a little bit easier to actually try and beat, but, you know, neither here nor there. Very minor complaint in the grand scheme of things. Doesn't really matter, because you don't even need to, if you fail at pinball 3 times, you'll still collect Joni's family member badge in the first place, so it doesn't actually matter. Yeah, do I have anything else to say about what other notable characters are there? Joni, Sweet Geraldine, of course, is very interesting. And when you hop on over to the park, Lorenzo, and I forgot her name, Tiffany, I think. Fantastic characters, very nice to talk to. I can't remember the other people. The other people weren't like they're alright. I'm more surprised. By the way, this is gonna be spoilers, I suppose. Mandy is Pat's roommate, but then wasn't invited to a party. Like, we couldn't talk to Mandy. Like, we could talk to Mandy, but he just, I guess, is too busy to go to Pat's party. I don't really know in particular why exactly, but that kind of surprises me, if anything. But I do want to hear more about the characters. But even, like, the side characters in the game are very fun to talk to, you know? Very charming in their own right, where, you know, you talk to them like, I just remember the guy you talk to who listens to Mandy and is... Mandy's kind of like creeped out by and kind of wants him to go away, but then the guy is clearly not getting the hint, I suppose. It is, and of course there's that woman, what's her name, like Teresa or something, who's on the bench and she's like got like 5 cats. Like, even the side characters have, like, even if it's like a very flat 2D personality, to be fair, they've only got like less than 10 lines of dialogue on first place. Of course they can have like a kind of flat personality, but the fact that they can, whoever the creators of the writers of the game, they convey personality across so quickly within just a couple of lines, which is honestly quite a good skill. I suppose part of it must be also the very charming animation, the art style, which lends to it, which you know, you build up your own thing. Like, you look at Lorenzo and you're like, oh, he looks like a gym bro, and the first thing he goes is like, Brosephine, and you're like, okay, you know, and I suppose through tropes alone you can sort of fill in the gaps of what exactly his personality is going to be like. And I'm not going to say that's a bad thing. I think that's a very good thing, especially with an ensemble cast. It's a lot easier to remember people's personalities and characters if they fall into similar sort of tropes. Although I suppose it is helped out a little bit in this game by the fact that you don't actually need to talk to many people multiple times. So that certainly is quite a good deal. Oh, I've got a Discord message, so much so that's appeared on my phone. Or if it's something I need to reply. Okay, that's something I need to reply to, but I think I can reply to a little bit later. Yeah, it's just honestly a really, really charming game. Where are we? Oh, we're going to talk to Lily, of course, because she's ill, and then we're going to head on over to Halves Island, I think. Yeah, so when you go to a park, yeah, that's kind of it. Downtown, and later Alligator does a lot of nice sort of like subversions, I suppose, of tropes, you know. Of course, like, they say, don't go into the back alley, like, everyone's warning you, don't go into the back alley, you shouldn't go into there, it's scary, it's dangerous, etc, etc, etc. And when you finally go, like, you walk down the dark alleyway and you see like a glowing neon sign saying girls, 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 and then, you know, if you're like me, you're just kind of like, it seems a little bit out of character, I suppose, to put like what's potentially an adult bar, I suppose, in the middle of a later Alligator, a very wholesome game, and you go down and it's literally about girls, girls, girls. It's like a girls club or whatever, and talking about like a famous woman from history or whatever who's done incredible things. And I was just, you know, it's a fantastic subversion of a trope, I suppose, in the first place. You know, they really like play it up, I suppose. Like, it's very obvious, I suppose, that it's going to be subverted in some form or another, you know. They play it up like a huge thing, like, don't go into the alley, it's going to be dangerous, you never know who you might find, or whatever. When you go into like a seedy alley and you see a seedy thing, and it's even called like the shady, the unsavory part of town or whatever, they build it up, but it's such a wholesome game, you know they're going to subvert it somehow, and it's still kind of like hilarious in the way they subvert it. Like, it wasn't quite what I was expecting. Oh, we need to talk to Flick, I forgot. Let's put stuff away, then we'll talk to Flick. We're not going to talk to you, Raymond, because you might want to move out, and that is not allowed. It's for you. Thought I'd let you know. Yeah, what was I saying? I forgot. What was I saying about this? Oh yeah, what other characters were there in the unsavory part of town? You got the Prince and Princess Valentino? Is that their surname? I know, they're very charming characters. Not charming in like a detestable way, I suppose. But entertaining characters is perhaps a better way to put it. Still got a pill bug. It's unfortunately January, so it's going to be quite difficult for us to get any more bugs and fishes. Well, not fishes necessarily, but bugs for us to give off to Flick at some point. We should have done it in summer, but, you know, I couldn't be bothered to catch him. I'll be fairly honest. Okay, who else was in the unsavory part of town? Oh, yes, Blue Eyes. I forgot his name, Blue Eyes. Something, whatever. The guy who pretends to be a tough guy. I loved him as a character. And honestly, looking back in hindsight, big spoilers, I suppose, of the game now. Like, basically the only story beat which there is to be spoiled. It turns out, after all of this, it turns out you are a hitman and you have been hired to actually and finish off a job and kill Pat, which you don't find out until through the second playthrough. So the first time you play through, you celebrate his birthday and it's all nice. And the second time you play through, was a scene which shocked me because I actually completely didn't expect it, because I didn't think there would even be an extra scene where you push Pat off a balcony and like scrub him out, I suppose. And it's like, what? Like, I don't know, that's not going to come out for like a month or so, but if you listen to my reaction, I'm just like, what? Wait, what? I thought I was like hallucinating or something, because I fully didn't expect it. And you're like, what? How am I a hitman? Why am I such a horrible person? I can't believe we just killed Pat, who was like the absolute adorable cinnamon roll we need to protect. And then it turns out, you know, you play through the game, you complete everything. It turns out you were a hitman accidentally hired by Pat on himself, and then you have a change of heart by talking to his family, by completing everything, by talking to Pat and finding out like how much everyone loves and cares for him. You have a change of heart after pushing off a balcony. You decide to put him back up and save him, and then all is well that ends well. It's, I will say, in its whole, a very absurd story, but I think it's fine in this case, because I mean, Later Alligator in of itself is, oh sorry, just press space, hopefully that didn't ruin anything. Doesn't seem like it. Oh, I just typed in Discord, oh well, who cares, you know. It's a very absurd story, but it's a very like light-hearted game in the first place. And don't get me wrong, I don't have anything against a light-hearted game. I think this is legitimate, but I also believe we have this one, Sinking Painting, right? I mean, we'll buy it anyway because the other one's fake. So it's an incredibly light-hearted and casual game in the first place. And you might think that maybe I'm criticizing it because of that. You know, it's like, oh, you know, there's no sense of like subtlety to the game or whatever. There's no like ongoing like themes, I suppose. I mean there's like mild themes, but it's not like they're particularly deep or anything. And you might see that's criticism. I don't think that's true. I don't think a game or like any sort of piece of media is necessarily should be judged by necessarily how well it conveys like moral themes or whatever. Some things are just like nice to participate in, I suppose. And Later Alligator is one of them. It's just pleasant. It's just nice. Okay, it's straightforward. Like, there's no, like, subtle, like, reading into everyone's movements or understandings or ideas that you have to do. You just play the game, you have a nice chat with friendly alligators, you play their mini-games, and it's just a swell time all around. And that's really quite an underappreciated thing, I think, in media a lot of the time. Especially when it comes to, like, AAA sort of products and big-name titles and things like that. You know, you got things like the Oscars, etc., Game Awards, etc., but but there tends to be, in my opinion, quite an over sort of emphasis on, I suppose, video game as like a form of art or whatever, which to a certain degree I understand. Like, you want to reward certainly those things which really push the boundaries, I suppose, or what they do, which you might be like, hey, not all games do, I suppose, where they kind of just reiterate upon the same thing, which is fair enough. But not every sort of game needs some like grand overarching thing to really, I suppose, get enjoyment out of it, you know? If you enjoy a game, it could be the worst game in the world, like critically or artistically or whatever, and has no merit or no value. But it can still be the most enjoyable thing to you, and really that's the only thing that matters. And I really enjoyed Later Alligator for the fact that it wasn't a game you need to, you know, like strain my brain thinking about it. You know, it's not a game that, you know, some games I play and I'm like, it's not like I dread to play, but I'm just like, oh, it's going to be kind of an effort to play this today. I've got to think about it, I've got to concentrate, etc. Later Alligator, nah, it's just a vibe. It's just all a big vibe. And really, I appreciate that. So yeah, it didn't very much catch me off guard when we ended up murdering Pat, and I was like, what? And the reveal of a story, I suppose, at the end, it did make me go, okay, this is like incredibly cheesy, but that's kind of our point, I suppose, in the first place. So it's not really that much in a bad way, I suppose. I forgot why I was talking about this, to be perfectly honest. Something about subverting expectations. That's like probably the only time Laser Alligator like probably subverted expectations, because a lot of the time you're, especially early on, you start to sort of anticipate subversions are going to happen in the first place. Things like, oh, you know, things are probably not going to be exactly as I anticipate they might be. Perhaps it's going to be slightly different, etc., etc., etc. Which is, I don't know if that's good or bad in a game necessarily. Predictability, I think, is fine. Like I said, I mean, I talked about Arcane and Squid Game. I feel like a lot of his major story beats in the game ended up being fairly predictable, but there are moments certainly where there's some versions and that sort of thing. But because not, but I don't think that necessarily hindered my enjoyment of it in the slightest. And honestly, I think we're better off for not having twists or whatever. Sorry, mild spoilers, I guess, for Squid Game and Arcane. There might be story twists. And especially in Squid Game's case, and one of the story twists I just thought, like, didn't need to happen, to be perfectly honest. I don't know what 5 bugs we can catch easily in the wintertime. That's quite difficult. So instead we're going to take a plunge into the freezing ocean. And do that stuff instead. Then we'll sell some stuff and water the gyroids. Yeah. What was I going to say? So I appreciate Later Alligator for its straightforward wholesomeness. Honestly, if Small Boo make more games, I'd love to see them. It's very clear that they are very good at making engaging characters, cute characters, very well animated characters, and a charming sort of game in that sort of aspect. Certainly, I suppose part of me's got a little bit of curiosity, being like, ooh, what happens if they try to make a really deep, like, story-driven game rather than one so light-hearted? Will that be something interesting to try? Really, it's not up to me. And at the end, they should just make what they think they can make and what they want to make and what they're comfortable making, etc., etc. And whatever they make, I am certainly got my eye on them, and I will certainly want to play some of their future games. So, I suppose all in all, do I recommend Later Alligator? Yeah, I would say absolutely give it a shot. If you play a game and you like to meet new characters, especially, or you like charming animation, or you just want to have a nice wholesome time, I think Later Alligator really is a time for that. Because you might find yourself quite endeared to part of Alligator, whatever, but there's so many different characters, you'll find yourself endeared probably to at least 5 of them. I suppose that raises the question who my favourite characters are. I quite like Black Widow, I quite like Joni, I liked Pat, of course, Broseph, I can't remember his name, Lorenzo, is that his name? Gentle Lorenzo, I think that's his case. I liked Sweet Geraldine was quite funny, I thought. The Prince and Princess, yeah, you know, the fact that I can remember like all the names, I suppose, is a testament to how good a lot of the characters are. That they're very memorable and that sort of thing. And you know me, I have a huge bias towards what are they called? Hold on, ensemble casts. Video games. I love meeting tons of characters, so really Later Alligators couldn't be much more of a perfect storm, I suppose, for me personally. The only aspect it was missing was, I suppose, more puzzle games, necessarily. I suppose that's the other thing. Old Maid, I think, was a bit boring. You play Old Maid twice in the story. You play Old Maid and Older Maid, and I thought I would have thought it would be a little bit more fun if the characters you played them against had like small tells or something, and I don't know in particular, because it just kind of seemed like it was luck whether you like win against a game or not, which is fine. It's just like, you know, it was a sort of case where I suppose part of it did sort of add to the story. Now I think about it, because the characters you play against, like, you know, my initial reaction to what I want to say was like, I feel like it didn't really add much to the story. But no, I'm actually coming back on that. I think it did add to the story, because now I remember there's a lot of conversation about the characters you play against being card sharks, being like vicious card sharks or whatever, or, you know, being like having huge amounts of strategy or whatever going into it, and then you just find out by playing Old Maid, which has essentially no strategy rather than sort of just reading people's faces and not having a big tell, which I suppose certainly adds to the comedic aspect. A lot of the times, Later Alligator, you know, humour is, of course, a big part of it. The humour did land with me, I would say, quite a lot of the time. It might not necessarily land with you. I can't really comment on that, on if I know it's going to land with you or if it's not. But I suppose if you watch your first... I suppose if you watch your first episode and you like Slick Mickey, or you find him entertaining, I think it is going to be a game where the characters and its humour will land quite nicely with you. But if you if you saw the conversation with Slick Mickey and you were like, it's kind of annoying, if anything, maybe it's not the game for you, which is fair enough. You know, everyone's got their own different tastes, so it would be hypocritical of me, I suppose, in any aspect, to be like, oh, you know, your tastes are wrong, because I don't believe that in the slightest. Everyone's got different things that they like, everyone's got different things that they don't like, or what sort of things. And Later Alligator is just really one, which is up my alley. Trying to think of other things I want to say. There's not like much actually. I didn't mean to customize this discourse about Later Alligator online, apart from people just going, it's a wholesome game. And I suppose, you know, that's kind of it. It's very straightforward, it's wholesome, it's cute. There's not really much more you can really say about it, to be honest. There's no like greater themes you need to analyse. I suppose you can talk about the characters, but the characters are all kind of like tropey, I suppose, in that own right, which is fine. I suppose I could read the Later Alligator TV Tropes page at some point, because I was trying to search around earlier to see if there's like review threads, or if there's people who've done like some sort of like analysis about the game. to really see what people say. And all I could really find was like with Switch Trade and people being like, it's a wholesome game, which is true. I certainly can't fault you in that aspect. So yeah, Alligator, really appreciated it. Thank you, of course, to my friends Rachel and Ellie for purchasing it for me for my birthday and allowing me to actually play it, because it's been on my wish list for ages, and it was certainly something I should have played sooner. As with every single game I play, I end up finishing it and I'm like, I should have played this game sooner. Which is actually why I have a big appreciation for this YouTube channel. It's not allowing me necessarily, but I suppose motivating me to play a lot of these charming games, which would have been indie gems I would have perhaps missed out on and never got around to playing, just because, you know, I seem to be very bad at playing games, in the sense that, you know, I never want to do it. I can never bring myself to do it. So I'm glad I gave Play to Alligator a shot. I very much recommend you all give it a shot as well if you're interested. If you like story-based games, if you like characters, if you like ensemble cast stuff, if you just looked at it and thought that looks cute and wholesome, because it is. But yeah, you'll be seeing the ending, I suppose, about on January 10th. If you already played through it, then I suppose you already know what I've all been talking about. Please tell me what you like about it, and like what you thought of it, whether you like it or if you don't like it. You know, everyone's got very different opinions. I've got no qualms either way. Share your thoughts and, you know, leave your own comments. Tell me who your favourite characters, certainly. But I suppose for now, we'll round off this episode here. So if you have been watching, thank you very much. It's been Animal Crossing New Horizons. I've been Dear Darling. Likes, comments, subscription, shares are greatly appreciated. Join the Dear Darling Discord, follow me on Twitter down below. Hope we can see each other again, but for now, it's our farewell. So until next time, bye-bye for now.